Good morning, everybody out there in Facebook land. This is Jillian with JillyJuice.com, and I wanted to cover today word alchemists, vaccines, and human trafficking because it really hit me, all right? So you understand my background because some of you are going like, who the hell is this chick and how does she, come up with these ideas? I don't even want to say how does she know so much because really I don't know anything. I know enough to understand how the world works, but do I know everything? Absolutely not. But I understand what causes people to do things and what causes people to have reactions. All right. So I was raised by a English major, okay, who is very good at the English language, who also has a law degree, and then married a guy in biotechnology, which is my adopted dad. Okay, so when you have a word alchemist who knows how to put different words together, who knows the different parts of speech, who, is very well read, and my mother, and also a psychotherapist too. Do you realize to what extent what I had to deal with as a child growing up when I was raised by a word alchemist who's also a psychotherapist with a law degree? That is what you call probably like a shitstorm of chemistry going on in the English language. Where when someone knows your triggers and they know how to put words together, and then you get triggered and you have all these different chemical reactions. That's exactly what I grew up with. And that's exactly what you guys are dealing with right now as far as the mainstream media, what you're dealing with all of the different racism and the Blue Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, all the different activist campaigns are going on. You are a victim for responding to major word alchemy. I mean, the fact that I was able to create this J juice, this jelly juice, speaks to what it is I was raised with. No, I didn't go to college and study biochemistry. No, hey Patricia, no, I didn't go to college and study word alchemy or the English language. I liked reading. I never really had any kind of penchant for mathematics or chemistry, but I did like to read. And then, obviously, when I was a kid, when I was punished, I would be stuck in my room. I'd be reading the dictionary. So I'd be learning the words. I'd be memorizing things, okay? Writing, as a punishment, I'd be writing sentences over and over and over again. I will not do this. I will not do this. I mean, for hundreds and hundreds of times. So there was stuff that I was raised with where words were part of my punishment, okay? Putting different words together would, if I was mad at my mom, I would have to write a letter. I couldn't really talk to her, okay? And that's probably why I want to talk to my mom, which she won't talk to me. She won't, when we have a disagreement, she wants to write a letter. Why? Because words are alchemy. Words really can sting somebody and make them react, especially if you know their triggers. And so me understanding the dynamic of what I was raised with, now I can see what exactly you guys are dealing with on a very mass level. Hey, Kristen Brennan, on a very mass level. And so it doesn't surprise me that we were able to get this jelly juice created off the ground, and now finally you guys are seeing the fruits of your labor, those of you that stick with the J juice. Because I'm telling you, you're not going to be able to get away from the chemistry of the vaccines. You're not going to get away from it. No matter if you are a conscientious objector like I was in the military. That's why I got out of the military, because I did not want to get the anthrax vaccine, because I knew it was experimental. How it was going to impact my body, I had no idea, but I was hearing rumors that some of the airmen were having issues and side effects from those experimental vaccines, the anthrax shot. So I was a conscientious objector, okay? But here's the thing. You can be a conscientious objector, but you're still going to be exposed to the antibodies that are shedding from the vaccines that are going to get rolled out. So now I'm switching from word alchemy and how word alchemy is the same thing as chemistry, it gets chemical reactions, to now the vaccine campaign. Because this is what you have to understand. There's a chemistry behind the vaccines. It's not like, oh, the mercury and the formaldehyde, of which some of you and all of you guys are mostly, the anti-vaxxers are mostly focusing on, the aborted fetus cells, whatever, the proteins, the egg proteins, all these different things are part of your microbiome, part of what's your food supply, part of the air you breathe, all that stuff, right? You're not focusing on the actual culprit of why you guys have major, major diagnosable diseases and major, major issues, and why you innately know there's something wrong with the vaccines. And that is the RABs and the MABs, the recombinant antibodies and the monoclonal antibodies. The bioengineered monoclonal antibodies is what you guys are actually rejecting and knowing there's something wrong, but you just can't put your finger on it. But then you've been told by the holistic industry that to fear your environment, to fear the microbiome, to fear viruses and parasites and protozoa and proteins and fungus and bacteria, to fear the fluoride and the mercury and whatever, fear the salt. Okay, so you've been misdirected by the holistic industry as well as the allopathic industry, so you don't focus on the actual culprit. That is antibodies that are shedding. The IgA that's in your spit, that is being taken as samples in the back of your throat when you're giving the COVID-19 samples, and then those samples are taken to biotech, and then they are programming monoclonal antibodies to go and create antigen, and program antigen to then program antibodies, of which then starts then doing like a 3D printer that starts messing with your biochemistry. And they call it protection. Okay? And they call it protection. So what I've proposed and what I figured, that this is going to be the opposite of what all you guys are thinking in your head. You know, since we can't get away from the vaccine campaign, we know it's going to be rolled out. The reason why it is so justified by the industry as well as by the minions of the industry, the people who are pro-vax, is because people don't want to feel pain. They don't want to feel their evolution. And so when you are promoting the hydroxychloroquine and all these different holistic supplements, you're trying to mitigate pain, and you're trying to create antibodies to mitigate pain. You're trying to anesthetize and basically kill off yourself at the micro level. So the vaccines are so justified when you guys have been taking for years and years and years all of your pills, power supplements, and detoxes, and then you are anesthetizing and stagnating your evolution in your uterus. And so when you stagnate your evolution in your uterus, your baby's going to come out at a deficit. It's going to need the vaccines and the antibodies and the exposure to viruses as it comes out to the world. And so that's what justifies the vaccine campaign, and that's why a lot of people are pro-vaxxers out there, because they don't want their kid to die from an enormous amount of antibodies accumulated because of their exposure to a new environment that the body is not prepared for. Okay? So you've all laid the groundwork of why the vaccines exist. You know, hindsight's 2020, but you've laid the groundwork, and now we have mainstream media just pounding the gavel on why it is we need to have vaccines. And they're talking about, of course, everybody in the hospitals, which you can't really deny because you felt some of the effects of the COVID. Some of your friends and family have been diagnosed positive and been fighting for their life in the ICUs. So you know it exists. And so what's going to happen is with the vaccines, and when they are actually rolling out the first wave, it's going to be to your health professionals, those that are in the medical industry working with the patients. And when you have all of your doctors and nurses and medical staff taking the vaccine and shedding, because it's the antibodies that are going to be shedding, you're going to mutate whatever version of the virus that's in your vaccine. And remember, they've taken your DNA from those COVID-19 samples from people getting tested and taking all the positive antibodies, and they are then creating these monoclonal antibodies to then put into the vaccines, and which you're going to have then a reaction to. And some of you are very, very weak. You're going to shed and you're going to mutate the virus, and it's going to be then all over your community. And this is what's going to show, or it's going to be result in the uptick of more people getting reactions and potentially going to the hospital. And guess what? The mainstream media is going to blame the anti-vaxxers and blame the people who are not wearing masks. And so I already see the groundwork being laid for that, being laid for the blame game. So what I figured out is that I'm going to get the vaccine. I'm going to, hold on, I got to pee real quick. So what I'm going to do, because this is going to be um, like what is it? The antithesis of what the anti-vaxxers are going to be thinking. Right now, the people who are very weak, who have been vaccine injured, okay, are going to try to avoid the vaccines. They're going to try to avoid the vaccines. So what's going to happen is those that are, which okay, I understand why, but there are people that don't know how weak they are or how many predispositions they have, and when they get the vaccine, they're going to be mutating that vaccine and that virus, and they're going to be very communicable, and then they could potentially have some adverse reactions on a continuous basis to where they can't survive it, and then mutate the virus and then proliferate it into the community. So really, the strong should be getting the vaccines because they're going to actually be more asymptomatic. Okay, if they're asymptomatic now and they get the vaccine, they're going to dilute it and release the excess antibodies that are in there in the toilet. They won't be as communicable. They're not going to be releasing all those antibodies too much in the community, and it's going to be a lesser version of what they're getting because it's their chemistry that's going to dilute the strength and the extreme effects of the vaccine. And so that's why I'm going to get the vaccine, because I have a very strong body. The Jilly Juice is going to release the excess. Yes, there's a certain kind of programming in the vaccine, but it's no different than anybody that's exposed to each other. We've all been exposed to each other on some level. We've all had sex with different people. We've all shaken hands with people. We've all eaten foods made by somebody who may have predispositions. It's not like you have not been exposed to antibodies that have programmed you. But yes, now we are seeing that potentially these vaccines are going to have more of aggressive RABs and MABs, which is basically antibodies. And yes, you might have a reaction, those of you that are very strong, but the reaction is not going to be as strong as if somebody who was weak getting exposed to that vaccine. So when somebody is strong in the vaccine, they will actually dilute the extreme effects of what's in the vaccine as far as the antibodies. Okay? Because they're not going to be as sick. They've already dealt with their predispositions. But those that are really weak or middle of the ground weak, if they're going to get the vaccine, it's going to mess with them, and they'll be very, 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 they'll be sick and they'll be communicable, and then mutate that virus, and then somebody who is just as sick or sicker than them will be exposed to them, because vaccines do shed. I have substantiated by PubMed that vaccines that have been given to a baby are actually shedding at least 3 or 4 days after exposure. And could be even potentially longer because it could be relative to your predispositions. If you have different cancer disease and chronic illness and you have weaknesses and whatever, and you take the vaccine, and then now you have all this inflammation in your stuffy nose and body aches, and you're exposed to then your grandma and grandpa and everything, and they're exposed to you, and my God, right there you've mutated it, made it stronger, because it's running through a very mutated body, a body that has issues, a body that is weak. So when you think about it, only the strong should be getting the vaccine so they can dilute the actual extreme effects and help transition the weak into this new environment. But that's the irony of the vaccines, is that they're trying to give it to the weak and the relatively strong, and the strong are like, no, I don't want it, I don't need it, and the really weak say, I don't want it, I don't need it. But it's not going to matter. If you are a conscientious objector and you're an anti-vaxxer, you don't get the vaccine, you have no idea who's been newly vaxxed. You have no idea people's predispositions or HIPAA report. You have no idea who it is that you're encountering on a daily basis. And so it's going to justify some people wearing the mask forever because they don't know. But then the mask is not going to be good for you on a long-term basis either. So either you strengthen your body with Jilly Juice, release the excess antibodies, which are the really culprit. It's not the formaldehyde in the baby fetus cells. It's actual the RABs and the MABs. Those are antibodies. Those actually will upgrade a person on a strong body, but will totally destroy someone on a weak body. And you have to understand the difference between the two. Okay? And so then from that, so since I was never in biotech, I'm not divulging any trade secrets because I never got a degree in biochemistry. I never worked for a company taking, their industry secrets and saying, okay, here it is. And that's what Judy Mikovits did, is that she took industry secrets and tried to spin it in her direction for whatever, because she knew life was over for her in biotech. And so that's why she got a lot of bad press and whatever. Okay. Um, and so anyways, so with me, I'm not exposing industry secrets. I never made a shit ton of money off of any of what I'm talking about or was ever involved with the industry. When those that are involved with the industry, like biotech, okay, like Judy Mikovits, bless her heart, and then she's exposed to the industry, yeah, the industry is gonna be pissed off at you and find ways to destroy you in some way or shape or form. Okay, and if you violate their contractual agreements, whether it's not exposing industry secrets to yeah, talking about human trafficking, that's part of the entertainment industry, and then you see on my Facebook, there are people on my Facebook or people out there in celebrities who have exposed the human trafficking. Now I'm going from vaccines to human trafficking now, because you understand, so you follow me. When you have taken apart and benefited and sold out, when you have sold out to the industry initially and you have benefited and you've had a nice life for however many years, because you could have walked away at any time. But when the money is beckoning that much and then you're willing to turn the other direction because the money is so good, and then one day either you're over with and you don't have anything more to give, or you finally have a conscience, which I don't know what would trigger someone when they're getting that much money, but something must have happened, and then you want to go and make money to expose the industry, that's when people start dying because they've signed the oath, the Illuminati contract, whatever, and that is not okay. So anytime you sign a contract with anybody and you breach that contract, there are repercussions. I am not held under anybody else. There's no contract that I belong to. I've never been part of the industry. I've been a child of the industry, okay? Because yes, being raised by a word alchemist, psychotherapist with a law degree, and then a biotech for a dad, I come by this shit honestly. I never made money off of this. Yes, I was adopted into it, but through no fault of my own. I never asked for it. It was never anything that I chased after. It was the fact that I'm like, holy shit. Later on when I'm 46 years old, I'll be 47 in February. 47 years old. Okay? So that's the difference between what I'm doing and then what someone like Judy Mikovits or Bourdain or any of these guys that are singers and rock stars, and they're being suicided because they've taken part. They've benefited from initially knowing some stuff. They benefited from the industry. They turned their head the other direction until it didn't suit them anymore, and now they're exposing it. And I'm just like, dude, what if we didn't have to sell out for money? What if you didn't have to sell out for money like that and sell your friends and family down the freaking river? So that's why I get mad at my MLMers and those that are making money off of all the cannabis and all the MLMs and the detoxes and supplements, because you're making money off of your friends' ignorance. When you could have been, when you could talk about Jilly Juice, if you've been exposed to Jilly Juice, and actually do it and see and show the results and find a different way to make money, not on people's biochemistry. Learn how to freaking sew and crochet. I got people on my Facebook that sew and crochet and do artistic stuff, and they show it all over Facebook, and people buy their stuff. But when you're selling supplements and selling herbs and extracts and all these different rife machines, and you are a minion for the pharmaceuticals and holistic, then you are no different than the Bourdains that turned the other direction, benefited off of their fame and knowing that this happens. You're no different than the biotech, selling and creating all of these crazy monstrosities of pharmaceuticals, messing with people, no different than Bill freaking Gates. Okay? So it's like, come on, you got to choose a side, life or death. But when you sell out to an industry, regardless of what it is, and you benefit from it, then really, do you have any room to expose it as if you didn't know what was going on? Okay? So, I don't know. It's just, so the whole thing with human trafficking, it sucks. And there's nothing you can do about it. So the only thing you can do is watch your freaking kids. Stop letting your kids go off to places and things and treat them as if they're little adults and know about the world when they really don't know anything about the world. pay attention to who they talk to. You can't really obviously see them 24/7, but let them know there are people out there that are nefarious that will take them into human trafficking and slavery in far off countries, and they will disappear and be never found again. You gotta let your kids know this. You can't pretend that this shit doesn't exist. Okay? So you can't control somebody out there that is burying babies left and right and selling them into the industry. There are people out there that are like that. They're what do you call it? They're something cows or something. Where they are their whole way of making money is to get pregnant and then sell off their children. So you can't save those people because you have no idea they even exist. You don't mix in with those types. They're underground, and that's the thing. So the only thing you can protect is your own kids and protect you, and watch where you go, watch who you talk to, watch who you date. Especially if you're a single mom, watch who you date. You can't control what goes on down the street when there is a huge trafficking ring going on. Unless you see something, and then yeah, be anonymous and say something if you know that you can be anonymous. But if you can't guarantee that your snitching on something is going to be anonymous, then keep your mouth shut because you don't want to be a victim. Okay? But really now this day and age is about minding your own business because you will be a target if you don't. But I'll just let you know that I have not sold out to anybody. I have not made any. I mean, let me tell you, even with the book that I had the last time, I didn't make a shit ton of money. You know who made a lot of money? It was freaking Dr. Phil. You know who made some money? Jeff Holiday. You know who's made some money? All those people, all the media, the BuzzFeed, the Pathos, the Daily Mail, Daily Beast, all of those that are trying to keep you guys tied in with the death trajectory, to keep you brainwashed, because if you actually knew what was going on, you wouldn't be reading all their bullshit articles. You wouldn't be following all their bullshit, directives. Okay? So they've sold out. The media has sold out. There's too much money in directing you guys to big pharma. There's too much money in directing you guys to the holistic. There's too much money in scaring you away from the facts of what produces life and what creates death. Okay? So when you want to know who actually sold out, look who's making a shit ton of money. Now, am I making a shit ton of money at some point? I doubt it. It's like what I'm getting is a slow trickle of people understanding this, because me penetrating the brainwashing, I'm not getting a deluge of people going like, oh my gosh, she's right. I'm going to go and face my pain and drink this horrible drink that tastes like shit. Tastes like salt water or salt water with kale. Let me tell you, it's not easy getting this information across, because yeah, you might get it on a intellectual level, but when it comes down to actually making it and doing it, it's a whole different freaking ballgame, and it's not an easy sell. It's not like it's strawberry lemonade that I'm selling. No, it's not. Okay? So no, I'm not making a shit ton of money off of this, because it's a slow trickle, and it will be a continuous slow trickle. So I got bills to pay, yes, but it's not like it's taking care of my every monthly needs. No, it's just a nice a little bit of an offset every quarter. I get paid every quarter. Okay? What did I make last year? Maybe like $4,000 or $5,000. Maybe 10,000 one year, but really, I think last year maybe it was like 9 or 8 or I forget. But that really isn't really anything, because when you think that, it really wasn't. I think, yes, right. 2018 I made like maybe 7 or 8,000, and then last year maybe about 4 or 5,000, something like that. Okay? So it's like I don't make a shit ton of money off of this because this is not an easy sell. But if I can at least get you guys to understand what's going on, and maybe I can transition you, if you understand it on an intellectual level, then you'll see it on a I don't know, on a level of health wise level. I don't know. I'm seeing just the slow transition. But but at this point, it's harder to get people who are that far gone to understand this. So I'm trying to get those that are strong enough to understand and then actually do it and report on their outcome or what their journey is. But I'm telling you, it's not easy. It's not easy. So, anyways, understand that word alchemists are the journalists, the English majors, the lawyers, they're word alchemists, okay? I mean, and then, and I was up against a whole lot. I was up against a word alchemist. My mother's a word alchemist. My dad's in biochemistry, biotechnology, okay? So I've come by this honestly. I have a major background in 47 years, 46 years background in it. I can run circles around freaking Dr. Phil. But I could do it now, but he would never have me on a show now because I would kick his ass as far as intellectually. Okay, but when I was still in the development process, he was able to kind of spin it in his direction because I didn't have all my substantiation around the salt and the antidiuretic hormone and high blood pressure is basically someone that doesn't drink enough water. If I knew that back then, they would have had me on the show at all. They would have just ignored me. But the fact that I didn't have that back then gave them license to do what they did, which is fine because it laid the groundwork for me to be more incentivized to really figure this shit out. Okay, so what happened to me on Dr. Phil could have made somebody or could have broken somebody. It made me. It didn't break me. Okay, so all of your hardships are either going to make you or break you. And you have every opportunity to make yourself, but some of you are too far gone and some of you aren't. And so you got to figure out which of the two you are. So anyways, that's all I got to say, but you guys enjoy the interesting goings on because now we have the hurricanes to worry about. You know, so the hits just keep on hitting and you just got to keep rising above, okay? Get the salt, get the water, get the cabbage and kale, get your jars and just do the J juice because I'm telling you, it's not going to let up. It's not going to let up. All right, bye.